The attack on Pearl Harbor plunged America into World War II. This, a day of infamy, as described by President Roosevelt, renewed suspicions and hostility towards immigrants in America. A misguided patriotic zeal was aimed squarely at a new growing immigrant population, residing primarily on the West Coast. They were Japanese-American immigrants and their American-born children. In West Los Angeles, a stunned Japanese-American community would forever be changed.
Of course, we were all shocked. None of us knew the war was coming, had no idea. And as unprepared as everybody else was. And my dad went to bed early that night on December 7th, and as he was just getting ready to go to bed, there was a knock on the door, and there were the FBI coming to. They walked right in without hardly any introduction as to why they were there.
They looked at my sister and my desk, and they saw our Japanese language books. So what is this? And I said, well, we go to the Japanese language school. Well, how come you have a picture of the emperor?
And they wanted to see my father, and they walked right into the bedroom without so much as an explanation, told him to get dressed, and they were taking him down to the police station.
I'll never forget. I broke down and cried. Said, how can they do this to us? We're American citizens. That's what I said.
Well, we thought he would soon be back after they questioned him. He never came back. They never told us where he was.
3 days it took to evacuate West LA. They just took them by sections, you see. And there was a big empty lot where the Japanese school is now. And the bus came there to pick up the first family. I don't know how they determined which family went first, but I remember our family was the third day.
110,000 people were forced to evacuate from the West Coast under Executive Order 9066 in the spring of 1942. Entire communities along the Pacific coast had been stripped of their homes, their livelihoods, their freedom, and their dignity.
When we got to the camp, they passed out the sack, and then we saw a pile of hay there, and they pointed out to the hay and says, "Make your own mattress."
The sad part was that we were all crowded in one room, our whole family, which was everyone except my father, which was 6 children and my mother. The worst part of it was the lack of privacy, going to the latrine and the bath showers without any kind of privacy at all.
It was so windy. The dust was like, a cloud, and it was just hanging over us. and we were trying to stuff hay in this wind into a sack, but we finally managed, and then the first night was a terrible experience.
I know that one of the things that I really treasured and really appreciate the teachers. We had, my second year, we had some young teachers who were, I found out, just graduated from college. They decided they wanted to help out. Those young teachers were really our only real contact with the outside world. Until you've been rejected from society, you can't really appreciate that. And they were our contact. So having them really meant a whole lot to me.
After the war, Japanese Americans were released and given $25 and a train ticket to anywhere in the U.S. Resettlement centers were hastily set up as a place where families could start to rebuild their lives. Japanese American churches on the West Coast were allowed to reopen to their congregation and communities.
I was aware of several hostels in West LA and how the conditions were very poor because there was very little room for any of the families that lived in the hostel.
It was a natural place for people to come back. My dad, having pretty much lost everything he had before the war, had to look at an entirely new vocation and a place where he felt that he can raise his family.
But it was very soon when the Japanese came back and the nurseries showed up again, and the Japanese drugstore, and then our church started. So it didn't take long to go back to what it used to be.
It was a nice community for families like us because we weren't alone. There were a lot of people here who were having to start over. We didn't have a lot, but there was a community and a unity involved. And related to that then was the factor that the community needed churches and places where they can congregate. So at that point, the church basically was not just a religious center, but it was an all-encompassing community center.
I feel that the most important historical role the church has played in the life of the Japanese American community has been the role of just simply being a place where people can gather and feel uninhibited about who they are with regards to race and national origin. The church has always provided a place where people also feel, I think, a sense of comfort, where this is a place where you can come and not have to worry about the storms that are brewing on the outside or the rising tide of problems that the broader society tries to throw at us.
The West Los Angeles United Methodist Church became the center of many Japanese American lives, a place of their own where both Nisei and Issei, first and second generation, could share community news and seek counsel relating to both economic and spiritual matters.
I remember some of the forums that the church had, dealing with problems and issues. I think they were concerned about their kids going wrong, their kids doing things that they had heard about and seen.
Like a lot of other Japanese American families during the 60s, my parents saw the church as a place that was safe, that was secure, and that offered some stability for our family, and particularly for us, their children. And so the church, right from the very beginning of our lives, was an anchor, not only just for our family, but for the community in which we lived.